Something to always keep in mind is well-being isn't about massive changes. It's about little shifts, stopping to recognize, taking a moment, moving, or journaling. Over time, these small acts create big results. Welcome to The Change Effect, the podcast that helps you turn life transitions into powerful new beginnings. One story, one shift, one breakthrough at a time. I'm your host, Noelle Van, an author, leadership coach, and change strategist who spent years in corporate America helping innovators and leaders break through barriers to create success on their own terms. I now work with women to step into change to create a life they love. Whether you're putting yourself at the center of your own story, redefining success, or making a power pivot in your life, career, or business, you're in the right place. Each week, we dive into conversations with trailblazers, changemakers, and everyday women experiencing the ripple effects that come from overcoming the fear and doing it anyway, providing actionable steps, practical strategies, and a whole lot of fun along the way. So if you're ready to step up and become unstoppable, buckle up and let's get started. I don't know about you, but it feels like the underlying tone in our country right now carries a subtle hum of agitation that is difficult to ignore. Since we are, after all, a podcast about change, it would be foolish not to recognize that regardless of what's going on in our lives, subtle change in the world is happening all around us. So when thinking about this episode, it felt like now is as good a time as any to take a beat and get back to the basics on how to recognize stress and anxiety when they show up, and review some of the tools you can use to help you overcome them, no matter what's going on around you. So in the spirit of taking conscious action to improve our lives in even the smallest of ways, let's dive in. Before we talk about the tools, let's get down to the basics about how stress and anxiety manifest in the body, as well as different forms of stress. Now, nearly 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. experience an anxiety disorder every year, and 75% of employees say stress impacts their productivity. For women, those numbers are even higher. Now, we've been conditioned to normalize stress, to wear busy like a badge of honor, but stress isn't just in our mind. It's physical, it's emotional, and it's behavioral. Maybe your shoulders are tight, your jaw clenches, you find yourself snacking late at night or scrolling social media when you should be resting. Those are all cues that your body is trying to process something it doesn't feel safe with. So when we ignore those signals, our body turns up the volume. Faster heart rate, shallow breathing, irritability, brain fog. It's our built-in alarm system saying, hey, something's off. Now, this comes from what's called the stress response, which is the physiological response our body feels when it perceives danger. Now, we all know the fight, flight, or freeze response. We've heard about that in school, or we've heard about that in the past, but it's your body's built-in protection system. Now, the problem is, in modern life, it's been triggered constantly by emails, deadlines, news alerts, even our own thoughts. So even if we're just sitting at our desks or at our kitchen table, our bodies can go into one of these responses without us even realizing it. Now, with that said, stress can surface at any time and can show up in 4 different forms. So I want to just go through those really quickly with you. So the first one is acute stress, short bursts brought on by a tough meeting, tough conversation, or a traffic jam. Then you have episodic stress, and this is when those bursts show up in recurring cycles, often brought on by repetitive triggers like a person or a situation. Then you have chronic stress, and this is stress that sits in your body over periods of time, and a slow burn that drains your energy and joy. And then lastly is traumatic stress, and that's when your body carries trauma that it hasn't yet released. Now, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and I may have mentioned this in a past episode, but it's such an amazing read on how the body holds trauma, and over periods of time, many times for years, people have not been able to release the emotion associated with past trauma. It's a fascinating book, but it really goes to show you how our body will capture that and hold on to it for years. So it's not only held in our body over time, but chronic stress can impair memory, it can weaken our immune system, and it can disrupt our hormones. And this is where we begin to realize the physiological effects it can have, adding to a whole host of potential illnesses, disease, or long-term health issues. So with that said, let's talk a bit about anxiety. Okay? Anxiety is like stress's overachieving cousin. It's what happens when your body's alarm system gets stuck in an on position. It shows up as racing thoughts, overanalyzing, anybody been there before? Irritability, restlessness, or a sense of impending doom. And physically, it's often tension, headaches, digestive issues, or fatigue. And if you've ever felt like you can't think your way out of it, you're not wrong, because your nervous system needs to feel safe before your mind can relax. So now that we see stress and anxiety for what they are and how they can affect us, let's talk about the tools to regulate and reset when they show up in our life. Now, here are a few of my favorite tools, the ones that have changed my own relationship with both stress and anxiety whenever they surface. The first, and this is one of my most important ones, is breath work. And this is something I learned many, many years ago, especially in early sobriety when I needed a way to calm my central nervous system. And what I would do is what's called box breathing. And this is super simple. You inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. So you repeat that 4 times and you'll feel your heart rate drop within minutes. The next is mental reframing. Mindset is everything, right? When you hear yourself saying, this is too much, I can't handle it, try flipping it to, this is hard, but I can take this one step at a time. That one thought shift opens the door to resilience. Now, the next is movement. I've talked about this a lot too, but we hold emotion and trauma in our bodies, as I said. So moving that emotion up and out is key to your success. Take a yoga class, dance around the living room, whatever shakes things up. A 10-minute walk outside or 20 jumping jacks can change your chemistry faster than scrolling ever will. The next is simply grounding yourself. When anxiety spikes, name 5 things you see, 4 you feel, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, and 1 you taste. Now, this may sound silly, but what you're doing is breaking the pattern, and by focusing on detail, it shifts your concentration away from gloom and doom and brings you back to the present. The next is something we all know, and that's connection. Text or call someone you trust if you're feeling anxious or in a stressful situation. You can keep it simple by just letting them know, I don't need your advice, I just need some support. Or you can simply ask, can I just vent for a minute? Connection literally releases oxytocin, and that is the stress antidote. Last but not least is journaling. As many of you know, I could talk for hours about how journaling can help lower stress and anxiety. I actually sound like a broken record, but the key with journaling is that it allows you to self-express by getting your feelings down on paper. Oftentimes what comes up is directly from your subconscious and can often surprise you. It offers huge insights into what's going on below the surface and can help you to start paying closer attention to it. By the way, I'm going to be dropping some powerful prompts that you can use in journaling into the show notes for you as well. So you can start practicing with journaling to dig in more and start unearthing what's going on beneath the surface with some really powerful questions to ask yourself. One of those being, what am I feeling and what do I need? Super simple, but just put your pen to paper and let it move. Don't edit, just let the truth come through. As I recently mentioned, mindset shifts are the key to your success when it comes to managing stress or anxiety. And it's where the deeper work begins. So one thing to note is that stress often comes from control, perfectionism, and reaction. So what if you shifted from control to trust, from perfection to compassion, and from reaction to pause before responding? This could make a huge difference in how you view anxiety and completely change your perspective in the moment because you have control over it. When we talk about self-expression, the reason it's so powerful is that it helps us understand our thinking better. And your key to maintaining strong mental health is how well you pay attention to your thoughts. So when I work with clients on the importance of listening to their thoughts, I often explain it like this. Your thoughts create your emotions, emotions drive your actions, and action shapes the outcomes in your life. So yes, thoughts are a very, very big deal. So one strategy you can use when you have a thought pop up, especially if it's a negative one associated with stress, ask yourself one simple question. Is this really true? If the answer, which it often is no, you can come up with a more positive thought to replace it. The takeaway here is that your thoughts, emotions, and outcomes are completely controllable by you. And the great news is, knowing this reframes how you think about yourself and the ability you have to overcome stress and anxiety when they come up by simply changing your thoughts. How cool is that? So when we think about our daily well-being, I want you to take a moment right now and notice, how are you feeling physically and mentally? Then think about what you have done today that's supporting your energy and what's draining it. And once you know those key elements to what's going on in your day, you can start to make the changes necessary to change your state. Something to always keep in mind is well-being isn't about massive changes. It's about little shifts, stopping to recognize, taking a moment, moving, or journaling. Over time, these small acts create big results. So pay attention to what you tell yourself, look for patterns, and stay open to change. Now, in closing, here are some simple tips. Pay attention. By reading the signs showing up in your mind and body, what are you trying to tell yourself? Look for patterns. Are you feeling good in certain situations or with certain individuals, or not so good with others? Those are key signs to take a look at and pay attention to. Be flexible to switch things up if they will help eliminate stress or anxiety. And last but not least, don't shy away from exploring your thoughts and emotions. Ask yourself those deeper questions about why they're showing up. The more you listen and ask of yourself, the greater you'll become at managing stress and anxiety in any situation. Now, I hope these tips were helpful. And just remember, stress isn't the enemy, it's a messenger. And once you understand its language, you can more proactively manage the effect it has on your well-being. Whatever life brings your way, you can't always control what happens, but you can always choose how you respond to it. If this conversation resonated, share this episode with someone who might need a little calm in their daily life. You never know who may be looking for a little extra support. That's it for now. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Journeys Through Change podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or really wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode so more women like you can find us and join in on the fun.